Welcome, my friends. Today we gather together in this shared space, in the stillness that is always present, yet often overlooked. In this moment, let us set aside the mind's constant chatter, its demands for understanding, and simply be with what is. We do not need to think our way into awareness. The awareness that we seek is already here, within us. It is the space in which all thoughts arise. Together, let us take a journey into this awareness. To recognize that we are not our thoughts, but the presence that observes them. The mind as a tool is incredibly powerful, but its inherent nature often prevents us from accessing the deeper dimensions of our being. It is constantly tied to time. It thrives on the past and the future, analyzing, remembering, anticipating, and planning. It is not capable of residing in the present moment, and therein lies the problem. Awareness, however, can only exist in the present. The mind's constant stream of thoughts, emotions, and judgments creates a barrier between us and the raw experience of the here and now. The mind's purpose is to interpret the world. It takes in sensory input, processes it, and builds a narrative around what is happening. It categorizes, labels, and organizes. This is incredibly useful for navigating the material world and understanding the intricacies of daily life. However, when it comes to experiencing the truth of who we are, the mind's methods are insufficient. The present moment in its purest form cannot be grasped through thoughts alone. It cannot be measured or defined by the thinking mind. The mind is constantly seeking patterns and explanations, and in doing so, it creates a separation between what is happening and our experience of it. For example, when we are lost in thought, we are not truly present in our surrounding. We may be physically aware of the space around us, but mentally we are elsewhere, either dwelling on the past or anticipating the future. This constant activity keeps us trapped in a loop of thinking, which keeps us disconnected from the present moment. It's like standing in a field surrounded by beauty, but all you can see is the thought you are having about the beauty, rather than the beauty itself. This is where the mind becomes a barrier. The more you identify with your thoughts, the more you reinforce the separation between you and the present moment. The mind keeps you in a state of continuous mental activity, and in this activity there is no space for stillness, for presence. Awareness in its purest form exists beyond thought. It is a space of pure being, a space where the mind is quiet and we are fully immersed in what is. When we are caught up in the mind, we are lost in the stories it tells, and these stories keep us from experiencing the truth of the moment. The mind's constant need to label and categorize prevents us from seeing things as they truly are. When you are lost in thought, you are no longer experiencing life directly. You are experiencing the interpretation of life created by the mind. True awareness is not something that can be grasped or thought through. It is something that can only be felt and experienced when we step outside the constant noise of the mind and allow ourselves to simply be. In this way, the mind's focus on time, its constant planning, analyzing, and recalling creates a barrier that prevents us from directly connecting with the present moment and the awareness that is always available to us. We often live in a state of identification with our thoughts. We believe that our thoughts define who we are. We think, I am my thoughts, or these thoughts are mine, and in doing so we create a strong sense of self that is built entirely on the content of our minds. This identification with the thinking mind becomes so ingrained that we forget who we really are, beneath the constant stream of thoughts. The problem here is that when we identify with our thoughts, we are essentially allowing them to shape our sense of identity. If our thoughts are filled with judgment, self-doubt, or fear, we believe that we are these things. If our thoughts are focused on past memories, we begin to see ourselves as defined by those past experiences. Similarly, if our thoughts are about future worries or aspirations, we feel that we are determined by what may come. But this is an illusion. In reality, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes those thoughts. The thoughts that arise in your mind are just temporary phenomena, fleeting and ever-changing. They do not remain static. One moment you may have a thought about a past event, and the next a thought about what you will have for dinner. Yet, through all this, the awareness that notices these thoughts remains unchanged. This awareness is the essence of who you truly are, and it is always present, beyond the fluctuations of the mind. When we identify with our thoughts, we create a false sense of self, one that is constantly shifting with the flow of thoughts. Our mood, our sense of peace, and even our sense of purpose become dependent on the thoughts we have at any given moment. This creates a fragile sense of identity, as thoughts can be negative, fleeting, and unpredictable. You cannot rely on the thinking mind to give you a stable or lasting sense of who you are. The more you cling to your thoughts, the more entangled you become in them, and the more you lose touch with a deeper awareness that is not shaped by thought. The truth is that the more we identify with the thinking mind, the more we remain disconnected from the present moment. We are pulled into the narrative that the mind weaves, and we begin to believe that the mind's stories are our reality. But if you step back for a moment and simply observe your thoughts without judgment or attachment, you will begin to see that they are not who you are. They are merely a flow of mental energy, arising and dissolving. You are the awareness in which they arise, and it is in this awareness that your true peace and power lie. The key to liberation is recognizing that you are not your thoughts, and by releasing identification with them, you free yourself to experience the fullness of the present moment. Trying to think your way into awareness is a paradox. On one hand, the mind's tendency is to solve problems, to analyze, and to figure things out. It thrives on this notion that through intellectual understanding or mental effort, one can reach a state of greater clarity, insight, or enlightenment. Yet when it comes to true awareness, the mind is precisely the barrier that prevents you from reaching it. Awareness cannot be grasped by the mind. In fact, it exists beyond thought, beyond concepts and intellectual analysis. The very act of thinking about awareness creates a separation between you and what you are trying to understand. The mind will want to label, categorize, and define awareness, but in doing so, it distorts the pure experience of it. Awareness is not something that can be boxed in by words or mental structures. It is not something that can be analyzed or dissected into smaller components. It simply is. And because the mind is constantly moving, always active, always seeking to understand, it can never truly be still enough to experience the stillness of awareness. For instance, when you are caught in the cycle of mental activity, you may ask yourself, how can I become more aware? How can I access true presence? These questions themselves are products of the thinking mind, and the more you try to answer them through thought, the more you entangle yourself in the web of mental activity. The paradox is that the more you try to think your way into awareness, the further you move away from it. True awareness is rooted in the present moment, in the space between thoughts. When you try to grasp it with your mind, you miss the essence of it. The more you seek it, the more elusive it becomes. Awareness is not something that can be attained through intellectual effort. It is not a destination to be reached through thought or analysis. It is a state of being, a shift in consciousness that happens when you stop trying to control or manipulate your experience through the mind. The key to accessing true awareness is to step away from the constant chatter of the mind and allow yourself to simply be. It is when you cease to analyze, to label, and to control that you begin to experience the stillness of awareness. The mind will continue to generate thoughts, but you no longer identify with them. You observe them from a place of stillness and presence. It is in this space of non-attachment to thought that you can truly experience awareness. And this experience cannot be reached by thinking about it, only by being in the moment. So, trying to think your way into awareness is like trying to grasp the wind. The more you try to hold it, the more it slips through your fingers. True awareness comes when you let go of the need to control and simply allow yourself to experience the present moment without the interference of thought. True awareness lies in the present moment, and it is only by embracing the now that we can connect with the depth of our being. The present is the only time in which life truly unfolds, yet we often overlook this simple truth, distracted by the noise of our thoughts about the past or the future. The mind, in its ceaseless activity, constantly pulls us away from the present moment. We are either caught in the memories of what has already happened, or anxious about what may come, but awareness cannot exist in either of these mental states. It is only in the present that we can experience life directly without the filter of past experiences or future expectations. When we look closely, we see that the past is merely a collection of memories and the future a series of imagined scenarios. Both of these exist only in the mind. The present, on the other hand, is the only reality that exists right now. This moment is the only time we truly experience life. The mind tries to pull us into the past or future because it believes that these are the places where answers lie, but in doing so, it distracts us from the only place where life is actually happening, the present moment. True awareness is not something you can find in thought, analysis, or intellectual understanding. It is not a concept to be grasped or a goal to be achieved. It is simply a way of being that arises when you stop seeking and start experiencing the present as it is. In the stillness of the present moment, there is no need for analysis. You do not need to understand or interpret what is happening. You simply observe, without judgment, without the need to label or categorize. This pure observation is the essence of awareness. When you stop mentally drifting away into the past or future, you open yourself to the vastness of the present moment. In this space, the mind quiets down. Thoughts may still arise, but you no longer identify with them. They become passing clouds in the sky of awareness. You are the sky, vast, open and ever-present, and the thoughts are simply transient. It is in this present moment that peace is found. The constant seeking for something else, something more, keeps us from experiencing the fullness of the here and now. Yet the truth is that there is nothing more to seek. The present moment is all there is. Awareness does not dwell in the past or future, it exists only in the now. where everything unfolds naturally. When you bring your full attention to the present, you are able to experience the richness and depth of life, and in this experience you find the true peace that is always available to you. Letting go of the mind's grip is essential to accessing true awareness. The mind constantly pulls us into its patterns of thought. It demands our attention, seeking to control, analyze, and interpret everything around us. But awareness cannot be grasped or controlled in the same way that the mind tries to dominate our experience. Awareness exists when we stop attempting to shape or understand the present moment through mental effort. It arises naturally when we surrender the need for constant thought and simply allow ourselves to be. When we let go of the mind's grip, we are essentially releasing our attachment to the mental narratives that define our sense of self. These narratives often stem from past experiences, fears, and expectations, and they keep us trapped in a cycle of identification. We identify with our thoughts, emotions, and stories, and in doing so, we forget that we are the awareness behind these thoughts. But when we stop clinging to the mind's constant need to label, explain, and categorize, we create space for true awareness to emerge. This process of letting go does not require any force or effort. It is not something we do in the traditional sense. It is more about allowing things to be as they are, without the need to control or manipulate them. In fact, it is the act of letting go that brings us into a state of presence. When we stop striving to think our way through life, we open ourselves up to the experience of the present moment as it truly is. We begin to notice the subtle details of life, the breath, the sensations in our body, the quiet hum of the world around us. In this awareness, the mind becomes less important. We no longer feel the need to figure everything out or analyze every situation. We simply experience it. The mind's grip often feels tight because we have been conditioned to think that we must always be in control, that we must always understand and explain everything. But when we let go of this need, we step into a space of trust and surrender. We stop trying to force life to conform to our mental expectations, and instead we begin to trust the natural flow of the present moment. In this trust, we find a profound sense of freedom. We no longer feel trapped by the constant pressure of thinking and trying to make sense of everything. Instead, we experience a quiet, still awareness that is always present, regardless of what is happening in the mind. Letting go of the mind's grip is not a one-time act. It is a continuous practice. It requires mindfulness, a gentle reminder to come back to the present moment and release the mental chatter. It requires the willingness to observe thoughts without becoming entangled in them, to see them as passing clouds rather than as defining features of who we are. As we practice this release, we begin to feel the spaciousness of awareness, a vast open space that is always available, ready to receive us as soon as we let go of the mental noise. You are not your thoughts. This realization is the key to true freedom and awareness. The mind constantly generates thoughts, emotions, and mental images, and it is easy to begin to believe that these thoughts are who we are. We often think, I am anxious, or I am sad, as if these passing emotions or thoughts are an inherent part of our identity. But the truth is that these are just temporary experiences. You are the awareness in which these thoughts arise, and that awareness is constant, unchanging, and free. The more we identify with our thoughts, the more we become ensnared in the mental stories they create. These stories, often filled with judgments, expectations, and memories, become the framework for our identity. We begin to see ourselves as the sum of our thoughts, but this is a distortion of reality. Our true essence is not bound by the fleeting nature of thoughts. The awareness that observes them is not limited by them. It is vast, open, and ever-present. When you step back from your thoughts and simply observe them, you begin to realize that they are not the totality of your being. Thoughts come and go, they arise, fluctuate, and fade, but the awareness in which they appear remains unchanged. The thoughts you experience do not define you, nor do they control you unless you allow them to. You are the awareness that is present before, during, and after the thoughts. This awareness is not disturbed by the ebb and flow of mental activity. It remains steady, peaceful, and always accessible. The more you cultivate this awareness, the more you begin to experience a sense of freedom. You no longer feel trapped by the incessant chatter of the mind. You no longer feel as though you have to act on every thought or become entangled in every emotion. Instead, you become the observer, watching the thoughts arise and pass without getting caught up in them. In this space, there is no need for control, no need to hold on to any particular thought. You simply witness what is happening in the mind without judgment or attachment. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, you realize that you are not limited by them. You are not confined to the stories the mind tells. You are the awareness that experiences those stories, but you are not the stories themselves. This realization opens up a vast, peaceful space where you can simply be. In this space of awareness, there is no need to seek anything because you are already whole, already complete. You are the awareness that is always present, always available, and always free. By recognizing that you are not your thoughts, you free yourself from the prison of the mind. You shift from being caught in the cycle of mental identification to embracing the timeless presence of your true nature. This is the essence of true peace and liberation. The recognition that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness in which those thoughts appear. In this awareness, you find the peace and clarity that the mind can never provide. As we come to the close of this moment, let us remember that awareness is not something we need to strive for or grasp. It is always present, waiting for us to stop thinking and simply be. The mind will continue to rise and fall, but we are the stillness behind it. We are the awareness that holds all things without judgment or need for control. As we move forward in life, let us carry this knowing that we are not our thoughts, but the awareness that transcends them. May this awareness bring you peace in every moment as you rest in the timeless present. Thank you for sharing this moment with me.